Coach Stallings, if you've not heard, had a mild stroke. News broke over the weekend. He was in Alabama doing a tournament for, helping introduce Dabo Sweeney for a fundraiser for Yellowwood, Jimmy Range Foundation, I should say, that gives scholarship money to underprivileged, unadvantaged, people who can't afford to go. Met some people that played in that tournament, in the golf tournament, and was at the event, said it was a great event. But Coach Stallings was there, was not feeling well, and later they found out that he had actually had a mild stroke and he is recovering. And so we may do this, a little bit of this all week, and if you're up and at him and want to get your thoughts in, go ahead. If you want to tweet, you can. The question or the request there is, tell us your favorite moment, memory, or game that you remember about Coach Stallings. I want to read a passage of scripture that I think kind of sets the stage for the story I want to tell, and I'll share some different stories as we move throughout this week. But there is a passage of scripture that says, all things work together. All things, not most things. All things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. And when I think about Coach Stallings and I think about his relationship with John Mark, and if you hear Coach Stallings share this story, he tells it as well. On the birth of John Mark, he thought it was one of the worst things initially that had ever happened to him. Here was Coach Stallings, this beast of a man, health-wise. He had been around the University of Alabama football program. He had been around the Dallas Cowboys program. So his entire life he had been surrounded, James, by either his own health and athleticism and all of that, or that of many others. And then his son was born with Down syndrome. But back then they did not call it Down syndrome. And they didn't say, hey, your son was born with Down syndrome. The story that Coach Stallings shared with us kind of goes that he was there waiting, and they come out, and the doctor simply, with no compassion, no sympathy, just straight out and said, your son's a mongoloid. And he didn't know what that meant. And if I remember recalling, he drew back to hit the guy and passed out. Because if you don't know what that is, and we take it for granted now, but back then he didn't know what that meant. But he talks about when he got up off that floor and the rest of his life, what John Mark meant to him. And the man that we see today would not be the man that we know had it not been for John Mark. Because John Mark, I call it, Coach Stallings was still is a very tough man. He's a very driven man. He's a very discipline-oriented individual. And he expects, and he has a high level of expectation. He's driven to be the best. He's driven his family to be the best, his daughters, his son-in-law. And, of course, we saw what he did with John Mark and the life that John Mark lived. What a blessing. And when I had Coach Stallings on, and like I said, we may get some of that audio for later on in the week, but one of the statements, he even talks about how John Mark took the edge off. And he said, I know you guys used to love when John Mark would come to practice because it would kind of get my attention away and I'd kind of soften up. And he was a much softer, gentler man when John Mark was around than he was without. And actually, we actually had someone on Facebook actually, let me see, what did they have to say? Ben Betzel said his favorite moment, two things, was how he adored his son, speaking of Coach Stallings, and his son's smile when he was on campus. And in other words, the first thing that Ben remembers of all of the things that Coach Stallings was able to do, 70 wins, in 7 seasons, a national championship, the only one in a 30-plus year window. He was that the longest drought for Alabama football? Because you had the 40s and then Bryant came in the 60s. So
that's right.
So once it started in the 20s and then
from 34 to 61, you had just one. And so think outside of that stretch.
34 to 61 is 27. And Bryant was, we had one.
From 79 to 09.
Yeah, so
that's 30.
Yeah,
that's
so
right.
So and so he's remembered for that. For me personally, he helped me see what a professional, driven, hardworking man could be in his profession, as a father, and as a husband. He modeled something that I had not seen a lot of. I had not seen a husband be as committed as he was to Miss Stallings. I had not seen that, James. I had not watched a man love his wife that way for that long. I'd seen marriages that would dissolve and divorces that would happen. I had not seen a man at the same time be at the height of their career. In other words, the time when I was with Coach Stallings was not only was I seeing him love his wife at an extremely high level, it was also the height of his professional success. And then third, I watched how he loved not just John Mark, but his entire family. It was always a family affair with him when he was coaching here at the university and the girls. And then, of course, if you've not heard, he has his son-in-laws are two of them are doctors, and one of them is the head, and a coach at SMU. And so they're all this successful group, family unit. And I don't think it's a fluke. And I learned that from Coach Stallings. And if when I'm 82 years old, I can look back at my family's legacy more than my professional career, more than my radio life and my business life and my football success. If my family can match and be what his is, where my children have grown up and they're raising children in the admonition of the Lord and teaching them to be good citizens and to be a positive influence. Because one of his daughters, I don't know if you know this, one of his daughters' husband, it was a successful doctor here, and now they are in Haiti, live in Haiti, and they've started a hospital there in Haiti, medical, as well as providing a lot of other basic needs. So, Coach Stallings, thank you for what you do. We're praying for you right here on the Blitz, praying for you personally, and want to see you continue to recover. But I just wanted to take a chance and say thank you on the airwaves, why you can still appreciate it, hear it, and be a part of it, because I'm sure I'm not the only one that has that type of story in memory, and your impact will continue to work in and through my life, and I hope I can leave that type of legacy for my family, my children, my friends, and all those who I've worked with as well.